There's certain things about Paternoster, like where does the name come from, when exactly was the town of Paternoster established. There's some of those things that we do not have answers for, and personally I think it's a good thing. The nicest story about where the name come from is that Portuguese sailors were in trouble here in the sea, and they prayed, they said Paternoster, our Father in English, and then they were saved. Now that is a nice story, but certainly not the truth. Why must we know where the name come from? So I think let's forever wonder where the name Paternoster come from. In old maps, there's islands here in front of Paternoster, very old maps, 250 years ago. They were called the Big Paternosters, and that is where the first little hamlet or town were established, is about 5 kilos north of us, and it's still called Groot Paternoster or Big Paternoster in English. And the main industry then was guano. The Dutch people used it for their tulips mainly, and penguin eggs. And I've still got a copy of a letter from a certain Mr. Graham, that was the man in charge here at Groot Paternoster, and he wrote to the governor in Cape Town that if they do not stop the people from killing the penguins and taking the eggs, there's going to be no more penguins. And that letter was written in the year 1900, and there's no penguins here. They sometimes come here to molt, but that's it. Where Paternoster is now was called Klein Paternoster, and where the islands are was called Big Paternoster. Then the gravity moved towards, the people moved towards Klein Paternoster because they found water here at Freshwater Bay. There was a cave system, a tunnel system from Freshwater Bay to Paternoster, where they rolled the freshwater barrels here. And then quite a couple of big industries started here in the late 1800s. Now, saying that, the first that we know that people were starting to stay here permanently was in the late 1830s. My house was built in 1846. So let's say from the 1830s people settled in Klein Paternoster, still harvesting penguin eggs. Then the crayfish market started getting momentum. A certain guy by the name of Stefan, he started and he wanted to export it to Europe. So they canned tails here and exported it to Europe, but it didn't sell well. Apparently it didn't taste well. Now I don't know how they canned it, maybe that had something to do with it. But then they changed the name from crayfish or crawfish to rock lobster, and all of a sudden it started tasting better. So it had a lot to do with the name. The first red roe factory, the fish paste factory, was in Paternoster. Stefan started that, and the story goes that he bought the recipe from a chemist in France, and when they made it here and the people asked him, this is nice, this will sell, what are we going to call it? He said, I don't care what you call it, just get me orders. And they took the word orders, changed it around, and it became red roe. There was huge fish oil factories here, and then overnight they established a synthetic replacement for that. So that became redundant. They used the crayfish shells to make fertilizer, but when the canning of the tails stopped, that also went bang. So there was a bit of a boom here between 1850 and 1950 for about 100 years, and then Paternoster became quiet again. And it stayed quiet until they tarred the road in 2000, when the cars with the high deposit and the low chassis could also get here. And then all of a sudden properties skyrocketed, and it became the in thing to have a house in Paternoster, which is mainly tourism driven today. We've still got our fishermen, They go out and catch crayfish, lionfish like snook and hottentot, and most of the women work in the fish factories. We don't have a fish factory here anymore, so they come and fetch them with buses to Saldanha and St. Helena Bay. So tourism has become our main income in Paternoster. The tourists that come to Paternoster, there is no theme parks and such in Paternoster. You come here for long walks on the beach, safe to walk on the beach, to be quiet. In winter is our secret season. Our average rainfall per year is 250 millimeters. So do not think that we get the same amount of rain than in Cape Town. It's quite dry here. So when it rains in Cape Town, normally it doesn't rain here. So in winter, we've got it's a very nice season. There's not so much wind. You can make a huge fire. Most of the houses got inside fireplaces, glass of red wine and a good book. So basically when the tourists visit Paternoster, they come here to relax and, as some people say, to find themselves. Currently, I don't have the new figures with the last census. We are approximately 2,500 permanent residents, I would say, in Paternoster. And the biggest employers here is Paternoster Fisheries, which catch crayfish. They don't employ that many people. A guy started a fish farm here, which is doing quite well. He employs a couple of people. And then mainly the guest houses and the hotel. The hotel has been here for many, many years. It was started by old Solomon Tolman in the early 1900s, late 1800s. And that was his first hotel. And just to give an example, the Tolman hotel empire today includes hotels right over the world, but including the 12 Apostles, Bushman's Kloof. So he started very small here in Paternoster, and mainly the people who worked in the Red Row factory and such, they stayed in the hotel, single men. But it's a world famous hotel. Back to the name, which means our Father, which is the Latin for the prayer. There's also a Paternoster in Chile, a small town. There's a Paternoster Square in London. There's a Paternoster garage in Belgium. So there's quite a lot of Paternosters around the world. Now if the sailors did say the Paternoster and got saved, that might go for quite a lot of shipwrecks that's lying around here, but none at that time. We've got from Cape St. Martin, just north of us, right up to Dawson Island, we've got 246 shipwrecks. So I think quite a bit of Paternostering was said along the coast here. I've got twin boys, and one of them worked in one of the restaurants here, and that was about, I think it was in the late 90s, 97, 98. He came running to my house and said, "Dad, Mr. Nelson Mandela is eating in our restaurant. I told him about you and he wants to meet you." So I went to the restaurant and he was sitting there, and we had a very friendly chat, and I said to him, "Why are you visiting Paternoster?" He said, "No, I come here often." At that stage he came here about twice a year, very quietly. We didn't even know, no blue light brigade, nothing, just Nelson Mandela quietly staying in one of the guest houses, enjoying it here. And I asked him, "Mr. Mandela, why do you like Paternoster?" And he told me that even when he was at Robben Island, from time to time they brought him here and he could walk on the beach without attracting any attention and have a bit of freedom by walking on the beach in Paternoster. And I still joked and I said to him, "I slept in my bed thinking you were safely locked away in Robben Island. In the meantime you were walking around on the beach." And we had a big laugh about that. So Mr. Mandela had a big, and still have, I presume, big affinity with Paternoster.